I will try to tell this story well, if you'll kindly lend an ear, about a man whose feats of strength were known both far and near. In the year of 1872, in Blasnock's wintry dawn, the date being February 5th, the day that he was born. Then unto old Kilmuckridge his family was to go, and there this fair young fellow in height and strength did grow. 6'4" it was his height, a sight for all to see, and 22 stone was his weight, and solid as a tree. At all sport he did excel, but he specialised in one. 'Twas the 56 he loved to throw, and the whole world he took on. But first he travelled Wexford, though his years were scarce 18. The people said this fine young man was the best they'd ever seen. At the Dublin Metropolitan Sport, where standard they were high, but he took up the 56 and tossed it towards the sky. The record stood at 14 feet, and how this crowd did roar, for when they measured this great throw, it was 15 feet and more. Then on to London he did go, where records fell at will. 32 feet 5 he threw with follow, 27 feet 6 while still. Now 3 world records he did hold, for years they were to stand. The 56 was but a toy, placed in his mighty hand. Though he is dead, his fame lives on, and now his name I'll tell. It was the great John Mangan, both known and loved so well. O'er his grave in Kilmuckridge, it's there it stands so grand, the monument to his great name, the greatest in the land.
Lovely, John, lovely. Tell me this when you're there. You have the 2 world records mentioned in the song there, but would you tell us a little bit more about the difference between the stand still and the with follow?
All right, yeah, the stand still is that they can pick up the weight and you stand into one place and you throw it without moving. And the follow is you can swing it and go with it. Follow with, follow. If you try to say something, to throw something further, it's inclined to bring you with it. And that's the difference between still and follow. You can't move your feet when you're throwing the weight. And that's the distance. And then you get that much further out of it when you follow. And that's the 32 feet 5 when followed. Yeah, it was the 3 world records he held that time. And they were really never beaten under the same rules, because even though it weighed the same, the shape of the weight changed. It went into a round ball with the sling out of it. And as you know, like everything else, it would have travelled that little further when it was just round rather than a long oval shaped thing, But he did, a man by Pat Callahan did beat him in it, but the weight was changed, not weight, but shape. So he sort of never was beaten under the same rules, And he died, of course, very young. He died at 44 years of age in 1916.
Do you remember you brought a weight one night when we met?
Yeah. Yeah, that has been the oval shape, well, maybe not oval shape, but and it would have been the longer one, and it would have been the type of weight that John Mangan was throwing. It was I got that at my grandfather's forge in Ballybaldon, Blackwater, and I sort of treasure it still because the same type of weight the great John Mangan threw. You know, he was a great man. He was a very placid man too. I believe, you know, he was very placid, and he'd mighty big hands. He had to get a special ring made for my grandfather or my great grandfather. Well, my grandfather would have made a special ring because he had an exceptionally wide hand, and he had to get a special ring made to fit his hand into it. You know, there's a local man too, Tom O'Connor, He was Tom O'Connor's grandfather because they lived right close to one another in Ballynahask, and they said even though Tom O'Connor they said was 9 pounds weight when he was born, but when he held him in his hands like that, and the child wasn't able to nearly feel his two hands. He was nearly like a cradle in his hands. He had mighty big hands, you know. That's another little story about John Mangan, the weight thrower.
Also, you told us about the ash tree at his own home place, was it?
Yeah. The tree in his home place in Ballynahask. He used to train throwing the weight up over the bough of the tree, leaned out over the tree, and a man told me that Aidan O'Connor told me that John was training over the tree one evening, and his father was sick at the time, and Dr. Poundon lived in down Ballygarta. He lived down in Pepper's Castle where we were there one Sunday, and when he came out, he said that John Mangan said to him, he said, "Doctor," he said, "I'm going to throw the weight on Sunday in Watford," and he said, "I put up records that have never been beaten." And the doctor said, "I'm afraid you won't be going to Sunday, John, because I'm afraid your father will be passed on, will be dead by Sunday." And he was. And that time, of course, people didn't take any more part in sport for a year because they were in mourning for a year, you know. As you wouldn't remember, you're too young, but the people wore a black diamond on the arm to indicate that we're still in mourning. And I think nearly all the ladies would have dressed in black and the men wore the black. And they said that he sort of, the next year he didn't appear to be as good. He didn't sort of hit the same heights again. So it was a pity he didn't get to throw that year. You know, it probably would have been that much better. But you know, that was the way that time. You didn't, if a person died belonged to you, you didn't go out, and you didn't go anywhere really. And Mangan wouldn't have thrown away anymore right at that time, you know.